It all started on a bright Monday morning in Willow Creek, a neighborhood where the lawns were always trimmed to perfection, the fences were painted the exact same shade of white, and the Homeowners Association, known to locals as the HOA, watched over every move like a hawk. In the middle of it all lived Daniel, a quiet man who only wanted peace. He wasn't flashy, didn't meddle in other people's business, and certainly didn't think his life would ever turn into the talk of the entire community. But life in an HOA is rarely that simple. Across the street lived Karen. She wasn't just any neighbor, she was the HOA enforcer. The one who would measure your grass with a ruler, count how many guests' cars were parked overnight, and even knock on your door to remind you that your holiday lights didn't match the approved HOA color scheme. Most neighbors quietly obeyed, but Daniel wasn't the type to bend easily. He had already endured several of her warning letters and condescending lectures. But what pushed him over the edge was something so ridiculous, so petty, that even the calmest person would snap. It was about his trash can. Every week, Daniel rolled his sturdy black trash can to the curb. Nothing unusual about it, just a normal routine. But for some reason, Karen hated that can. Maybe she didn't like the brand, maybe she thought it was placed 2 inches too far from the curb, or maybe deep down she simply enjoyed having control. Whatever the reason, Daniel started noticing something strange. Each time he put his trash can out, by the end of the day it was knocked over, lying flat on the street, trash spilling everywhere. At first he thought it was the wind, then maybe raccoons. But when he finally checked his security camera, the truth nearly made him laugh out loud. It was Karen. Every morning after Daniel went inside, she would march across the street still wearing her floral blouse and big sunglasses, and deliberately shove his trash can over. She'd glance around as if expecting applause, then strut away as though she had just performed a noble duty. Daniel couldn't believe it. Who in their right mind made it their mission to bully a trash can? At first, he ignored it. He picked it back up, shook his head, and carried on. But when it kept happening week after week, Daniel decided enough was enough. If Karen wanted to make his trash can her personal enemy, he would give her a battle she would never forget. What Daniel did next wasn't just about a trash can. It was about teaching Karen a lesson. And little did she know, her own prized possession, her luxury SUV, was about to pay the price for her arrogance. Daniel wasn't a confrontational man, but he was clever. Instead of yelling at Karen or reporting her to the HOA board, where she had friends, he began to brainstorm ways to outsmart her. He looked at that trash can not as garbage storage, but as an opportunity, a trap. He started by upgrading it. Instead of leaving it empty, he filled the base with sandbags to make it heavy, nearly impossible to casually knock over. But he didn't stop there. He attached a discreet spring mechanism inside that gave the can a little bounce-back effect. From a distance, it still looked like an ordinary trash bin, but it was now practically indestructible. Daniel chuckled to himself as he rolled it to the curb, waiting for Karen's reaction. At 8:07 a.m. sharp, Karen strutted out of her house. She looked both ways like a cartoon villain checking for witnesses, then pushed Daniel's trash can with her usual smug satisfaction. But this time, instead of toppling easily, the can wobbled, sprang back upright, and nearly knocked into her legs. Karen's jaw dropped. For a moment she stood frozen, then stomped back to her house in defeat. Daniel thought maybe that would be the end of it, but he underestimated her stubbornness. Karen didn't give up easily. The next week she returned with even more determination. This time she gave the trash can a running shove. The can barely budged. She growled in frustration, storming back to her car like a toddler denied candy. And that's when Daniel's plan started to take an unexpected turn. Karen's SUV was her pride and joy. Shiny, spotless, and always parked in the same spot at the curb, she treated it like a trophy. But as fate would have it, her obsession with Daniel's trash can was about to collide, literally, with the one thing she cared about most. What happened next would not only shock the neighborhood, but it would also humiliate Karen in a way that no HOA warning letter ever could. The following Monday, the air felt tense. Daniel rolled out his reinforced trash can like a knight placing a shield on the battlefield. Across the street, Karen adjusted her sunglasses and tightened her grip on her HOA clipboard. Neighbors peeked from their windows, sensing something was about to unfold. As soon as Daniel went back inside, Karen made her move. She stormed across the street, clearly frustrated that her previous attempts had failed. She leaned her whole weight against the can, shoving it with all her strength. But the can didn't just resist. It slid. The reinforced weight and slick wheels sent it rolling, straight down the slight slope of the road. At first, Karen smirked, thinking she had finally beaten Daniel's indestructible trash can. But then her smile faded. The can wasn't stopping. It picked up speed, wobbling dangerously, heading directly toward the one thing she hadn't protected, her SUV. "No, no, no, no!" she shouted, sprinting after it in a panic. But it was too late. With a thunderous crash, the heavy trash can slammed into the side of her SUV, leaving a massive dent and scratching the flawless paint. The sound echoed through the street. Neighbors gasped from behind curtains, some even rushing outside to see the spectacle. Karen froze, staring at the damage in horror. Her face turned red, then pale, then red again. She looked around wildly, as if searching for someone to blame. But everyone had seen what happened. Everyone knew. And then, slowly, Daniel stepped outside. He didn't say a word. He just stood there with the faintest smile, hands in his pockets, watching Karen's meltdown. The humiliation was too much for her to bear. The SUV may have been the first casualty, but the fallout from that trash can incident would change the entire neighborhood dynamic, and Karen's control, forever. Karen immediately tried to spin the story. She called the HOA board, demanding they fine Daniel for property sabotage. She claimed he had deliberately weaponized his trash can against her SUV, but the board members had already heard from neighbors, and worse for Karen, some had even filmed the incident on their phones. The video spread like wildfire in the community Facebook group. Suddenly, Karen wasn't the powerful HOA enforcer anymore. She was the laughingstock of Willow Creek. Memes of her chasing the runaway trash can circulated online. One neighbor even made a t-shirt that read, "Don't mess with the can." Her SUV, once the gleaming symbol of her status, now bore the ugly dent as a daily reminder of her downfall. And every time she drove past Daniel's house, she saw that trash can sitting proudly at the curb, untouched, undefeated. Daniel never gloated. He never needed to. The entire neighborhood did it for him. In time, Karen became quieter, less confrontational. She stopped harassing neighbors about their lawn height or mailbox colors. Some whispered that she had finally learned her lesson. Others thought she was just too embarrassed to show her face. But one thing was clear. The trash can incident had broken her iron grip on the community. As for Daniel, he went back to his peaceful life. He didn't want power or revenge, just respect. And oddly enough, that's exactly what he got. From that day forward, neighbors waved at him, offered friendly chats, and even joked that his trash can was the true HOA president now. And so, in a neighborhood where rules and control once overshadowed simple kindness, it wasn't a lawyer, a board vote, or even a shouting match that ended the tyranny of Karen. It was a trash can. Heavy, stubborn, and unyielding, just like the man who owned it. Because sometimes the smallest battles, fought with patience, wit, and a little creativity, create the biggest victories.